Good evening. It has been a dramatic weekend of games in the English Premier League. An even more dramatic one if you're a Premier League team playing another Premier League team in the Carabao Cup. And if you're Celtic, you get to not be in Europe again. But we don't talk about that one here. I'm joined by Shaylin's back. We've got Shay and Jay in the house. Jay with a special appearance from parts unknown, as they used to say in the WWE. And Sully and Glenn. How are we, gentlemen?
Doing good.
Better. Much better than last week, Macca.
There you go. Yeah, it's Keith Andrews might be the second coming of Keith Andrews, but you never know how it works. But let's see what we're going to talk about tonight. We go over the scores for game week 2. Talk about the Carabao Cup this evening, mainly just 2 games that involved all Premier League opposition, and we'll talk about the transfer window coming up. I think it's Monday's last day, and then what's going to happen this coming weekend and our Tonali picks. But let us because there is one game we kind of have to talk about just for the drama of it all. But let us look at the games for the past weekend. Obviously, Jamie's got to be able to tell us great things about that performance against probably the poorest team in the league. Brentford with something we can talk maybe a bit of a Barney between Glenn and Shaylen there as well. And then Sully and myself talking Liverpool, Newcastle, and maybe even a mention of City there, and a tough one for Glenn to possibly take there because Thomas Frank has really shown that he knows his oats as a coach, and I'm delighted for him. But let's start with that one because it's neutral and it gets us pretty much out of the way. Glenn, especially. Does it surprise you that Thomas Frank had a way to defeat Man City at home?
No, it surprises me that Richarlison seems to be his leading man. That is perhaps a surprise. Where did that come? Where did that come from? I mean, he looks every bit the kind of player he was, obviously, for the blue side of Everton. It feels like a long time ago since he was really running the show for a team in the Premier League. So, honestly, good to see him thrive, to be honest. So, the role that he has in the team is surprising. But no, I mean, as we said last week, Macca, the early results look really promising for them, right? PSG was a really good performance right up until the end. They really showed what they could do against the best team in Europe and very nearly the best team in club football, apparently. But obviously that's been taken by Jamie. But I mean, fair enough. He's got... All I would say is that he has... I think, if there's not a Spurs fan to correct me here, he has a team that at least looks a little bit fitter than they were under Ange, right? That back line is so central to everything that Spurs do, whether Ange or Thomas Frank is the manager. And the second that Romero and Van de Ven got injured, that's when the whole thing started falling apart under Ange. Because, he won a trophy, which is massive. And I think probably one of the things that will define his legacy is playing suicidal football, for want of a nicer word, and also having a squad that was threadbare for so much in the season. I think he had this amazing quote, when you think you see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's the train about to hit you. That was where Ange's squad was at its worst. And I think it's really interesting to see a manager come in who has worked wonders with a smaller squad on a threadbare budget. It's very interesting, right, Macca, for him to apply his tactical nous and his quality of management. With a better squad, I would say that the Spurs squad still doesn't blow me away. I think he's getting the most out of a squad that is solid, if unspectacular. It's not as if he's gone to Man City and he's winning games 2 or 3-0. He's gone to Spurs, who did finish 17th last season. So to see them have this start to the season, I think is surprising because it's Tottenham. You expect something to go wrong. But yeah, he is demonstrating everything we knew as a Brentford fan or as a neutral Macca who appreciates a good manager, which is tactically he's extremely astute. And yeah, I would love him to succeed and get the best out of the Spurs squad. I don't have any, hard feelings about that. But hey, he's had what a result. I mean, but the thing is, Macca, he's done that with Brentford. Brentford have gone to the Etihad, played brilliantly, and come away with the win, right? It's probably our best result in the Premier League was going there, winning 2-1. So, yeah, I'm not surprised, but we're going to see a battle, an existential battle between being Spursy and being Thomas Frank. And we're going to see when those really meet later this season, I think.
Shane, we talked about the impact Thomas Frank had on Brentford, but also the impact Unai Emery has on Aston Villa, and it is pivotal. So, and especially pivotal for a team ambitions and has a claim to being like one of the top teams in England, as Villa in various iterations of its existence could claim to. It's one of the few English clubs that has a Champions League trophy or a European Cup as was in those days. Certainly a club to be respected. But having that pivotal figure that all the players can rally around in the management hot seat, as we will discuss later on, may not exist in West Ham, for example. I mean, it's so important, isn't it? The players already seem to have bought into Thomas Frank at Spurs the way the players bought into Unai Emery at Villa. And it's a lot to be said for that, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like how Glenn has said, too. Like, he did it at Brentford with limited funds. He, bought players that were gems and turned them into very good league players. And we saw it with seeing Mbono go into United for such a high fee. But like how Glenn said, there's quality in that Spurs team. We joked about it a lot last year, but they had a bunch of injuries. But they have the quality to do it. And I feel like he's the perfect coach to get that out of them right now. But as Glenn said, it is Spurs. They may have their Spursy moment. We'll see. Because didn't they start out very hot with Ange 2 years ago? And so take it with a grain of salt. I like Thomas Frank. I think he is probably the right manager for them to get a little bit of steadiness, because they were kind of on that path that Chelsea was on. Like Jamie is aware, a new coach every year coming in, bringing in players, not getting rid of the ones that they need to get rid of. Obviously the biggest change for them is you lose two of their best players ever. You lose Harry Kane, and then they had to replace him, and now you lose Son. So I think Kudus and Brennan Johnson are going to have to step up massively. But it was a good result to see, because, City they looked good that first match. They kind of struggled, and they finally turned it on. I was like, here we go, just a little slow start. But then second game to get outplayed and then lose would take a big hit. I don't know how far they'll make it in the cup games. That's going to be Thomas Frank's, I think, main challenge, is to try to win at least another trophy just to keep the fans happy.
Jamie, now let's flip over to the City side, because you and I both know, as supporters of clubs who had success and a period of success and then saw disappear to other teams, upping their game to coin a verb. In terms of City, do you see maybe the beginnings of the end of the Pep Guardiola reign? Is the sheen of invincibility gone from this City team, do you think? Or was it just a case of, as they say in boxing, styles make fights, and Thomas Frank's particular way of coaching just seems to be a weakness for a coach like Pep Guardiola? What do you think?
I think it's hard to say, and it seems like I'm sitting on the fence here, but Spurs had their number last season as well. I think they won 4-0 in the same fixture last year, which is shocking. I think they were flat track bullies in their opener, and just like the opener probably couldn't predict the season, the second fixture probably can't either. I think time will tell, and I think but you mentioned the sheen of invincibility. I think that went last season, and I think they've replaced the rumors about Pep kind of leaving after his contract's up. Like, he's not a lame duck, but he's not the Pep in the first few seasons, coming off all that success at Bayern, at Barcelona. So, in theory, he's I mean, I'm not as intimidated by City as I was. I think that intimidation has gone to some other teams, let's say. But I mean, it was starting to show from City fans. So I watched the Chelsea West Ham game with a bunch of other fans, West Ham, Man City, and the Man City fan was actually surprised to learn that they were favourites against Spurs, which seemed just completely foreign to me. I was like, you're playing Spurs, of course you're favourites. You're Man City, and then lo and behold, they get battered. They lost 2-0. I think fantastic result for Tottenham. And Man City, I mean, you're going to have a couple of slip-ups, but based on how competitive we think the league is going to be, you can't afford too many of those this season. So if Liverpool's going to repeat what you did last season, Like Man City, they've had their kind of free hit. They kind of need to be mistake free towards the end of the season if they're going to really do something.
Joel Wilson Garcia, thank you for the like on Facebook, and it's good to see it. Sully, here's what I want to ask you. It's something I heard on the Sirius XF, whatever you call it, soccer pundit show. For as somebody who is a part of a fan of a club that values its number nines and turns them into massive heroes, the controversial opinion was that Harry Kane at Bayern Munich is a better overall player than Erling Haaland because he offers more. He does more assists. Erling Haaland basically just scores. But it seems to me that if you can have a plan for Erling Haaland against City, you're pretty much killing half of their game, especially now that they don't have Kevin De Bruyne and they don't have a player like David Silva. And Jack Reed has shown what he can do if you actually give him a chance, like at Everton. Is it the case that Erling Haaland is talented as he is and as natural a goal scorer as he is, that he's so one-dimensional that teams are starting to figure that part of City's game out?
No, I don't know if he is. I don't know if he is one-dimensional because he is such a freak athlete. It's been a long time since we've seen one of these a run from him. Just past midfield. He's got several of those when he was at Dortmund. It doesn't seem like he's getting any sort of space. So maybe that is center backs figuring him out. But if that is the case, then I think he has more to his game. I think he's a better player overall and definitely a better athlete than Harry Kane. I think the players at City who they brought in need to figure out how he wants the ball to be played. Now, that being said, they do need to develop that chemistry, but I think Pep kind of got comfortable with Haaland scoring 1 million goals whenever he felt like and imposing his will. I think we all thought that was going to continue and it was never going to hit a cold streak. And it's the Premier League. It's the best league in the planet. People are going to figure you out. I still think he's immensely talented, and I think he is still going to figure it out. I thought you were going to ask me a Harry Kane question and related to Tottenham, because I was going to say, I don't care about Tottenham's offense. Their defense right now, I know it's only been 2 games, but they've yet to allow a goal in the Prem, which is pretty fantastic. And back to Glenn's point, talking about Romero and Van de Ven, when they're healthy, when they're in sync, that shows you what they can do. I mean, Burnley, yes, it's Burnley. Duo City at the Etihad, that's pretty darn good. That's pretty solid.
And it kind of, to me, anyway, the thing I've long suspected is that it doesn't really matter about the coaching, does it? You still, even as much as we all talk about the talented attackers, but talented defense is a thing as well. And that shows it, doesn't it? That those 2 players, if Frank can keep them fit, Spurs are in for a possibly very good season.
As good as Richarlison is playing, that back line as a unit is just as important, is just as critical to whatever success Tottenham is going to have this season.
Now, let's go back to the scores, because we mentioned West Ham. Jamie, talk us through. That was a shellacking by anybody's account. But a shellacking that West Ham and more specifically, that's a real word. Anybody who says differently is getting a slap. More specifically, Graham Potter, it kind of shows him up a little bit, doesn't it? And especially to lose to Chelsea. If it was, maybe Bournemouth or Liverpool, maybe it's a different matter. But to lose a London game, the London derby, that's got to hurt West Ham. But it must please you because you dominated the game, didn't you?
Yeah, a shaky start early on. I think Palmer going out in the warm-up like 3 minutes before kickoff or whatever it was that I saw the change was concerning. It sounds like that's just a precautionary measure. He'll be back after the international break. But Paqueta with a great strike, and it seemed like, oh no, is this going to be a really long night for Chelsea? I think the first 10 minutes back and forth, Fulcrum dancing when he scored that goal that got disallowed, unfortunate. But we thumped them after that. They were absolutely hapless. And Esteval looked great, coming in 10 minutes before kickoff. at 18 years of age. Did not play with any fear. Didn't finish like his counterpart at Liverpool did on the weekend, but we'll get to that later. It's a really solid performance from us. But from West Ham, it was a very familiar performance. We've seen that many times at Chelsea, where they didn't look like they could break anyone down, didn't look confident on the ball. They didn't really have any identity, any plan, and they were just so easy to play against. And that's why Chelsea sucked under Potter. And I think West Ham might be in real trouble, though. Seriously, not just Potter, but West Ham. If you look at their squad, they have absolutely no pace in midfield, zero, and then up top they have absolutely no pace either. And Callum Wilson came on and tried really hard, but it looks like Jared Bowen is the only one that can really do anything on that team. And Paqueta, great goal, but also not the fastest, and with no one really making runs ahead of him, he's not really playing anyone in. And even Wan-Bissaka's losing players at the back post, so like not doing what he's known for his man-to-man defending. They look really hapless under Potter. And the problem that I was talking with the West Ham fans about was, if not Potter, then who? Was quite a valid conversation. And then the piece that we'll get to later is transfers. Like, I don't know why they're not raiding Chelsea's kind of like I guess recycle bin, because they have no pace and they have no talent, and I think they're really going to struggle. And I feel sorry for West Ham fans, actually, because they're a good group of fans. They're exciting to play against. They give it as much as they'll take, but yeah, not great. I mean, I don't even think we were that good, to be honest. We had some great attacks, but we lapsed in concentration at the beginning, and I mean, we still were easy to overcome West Ham. It seemed like it was more about them being bad than us being good. And then Carabao Cup kind of rams that home. They're not showing up for Potter. And sooner rather than later, West Ham might need to pull the plug.
But Jamie, do you think? Sorry, Mac. Jamie, do you think that West Ham fans are great, but is this not an example of the hubris of really hounding out Moyes, who's doing a cracking job at Everton, and demanding this kind of philosophical triumph of this West Ham way of playing football? It's like you're finishing in the top half every season. You've won a European trophy, regardless of the quality of it. And yet, because the quality of football doesn't match your kind of, I would argue, delusion for what constitutes Premier League football for West Ham, you're in this situation. I would add that they're not getting the right investment. The squad is threadbare. It's paceless. Your analysis was amazing there. But I do think the West Ham fans deserve a little bit of criticism for literally hounding out Moyes, who was doing a bang-up job for them.
There's certainly validity in that, for sure. And I think it's coming home to roost. But when you see Potter on the sideline at West Ham, he doesn't look like a West Ham manager at all, does he, really?
He doesn't. He often doesn't look like. He doesn't even look like a schoolboy manager sometimes.
No.
He looks lost a lot of the time.
And yeah, that dumbfounded look on his face, like he definitely doesn't have a plan. And I think we spoke about this last week or a couple of weeks ago, but like Brighton is suddenly a very long time ago. And you think that if he loses his job at West Ham anytime soon, like, is his next appointment going to be in England? Perhaps not, right? Like, he might have to go back to where he kind of found success and built himself up before Swansea. Because I'm not sure he'll get another Premier League job if he fails here, having failed at Chelsea. Brighton was a long time ago, and I think it's proving that De Zerbi did better with the same squad. Maybe it was just that team was incredibly well run.
I was just going to say, West Ham fans may be great, but they also rob banks. That's an IT crowd joke for anybody who watches. Ludicrous decision from Arsene Wenger. So what I was going to say then next is for Sully, in terms of, we may get into it in a little bit, but in terms of, let's say the nuclear scenario happens for Newcastle and Isak does leave, would Jared Bowen from West Ham be a suitable replacement? Because I'd like him at Liverpool. I think he's a very good striker. He's a very good number 9. And that seems to be what Newcastle, number one, culturally is built on, but also what you need. You know, you can't keep putting Anthony Gordon up there because he's got to be red carded for the rest of the season. If you do...
No, I'd like to have a player like Jared Bowen. I think he fits well with our system. I think he fits well with our culture. He's a Newcastle type of player. I will say I don't know what his asking price would be. We just got denied a £50 million transfer for what's his face?
Stan Larson.
Yeah, Jorgensen Larson.
God.
And he's at Wolves, and they're probably going down also. Like, they had the fortune of playing West Ham today, but if we're not paying more than 55-60, I don't know if we're gonna get Bowen for that price. We'll talk about it later, but I'm a big fan of Ozula. I think Ozula has some real potential, and I think he's an actual striker rather than Gordon, who is more of a forward who wants to play out on the wing, but is forced into this striker role given that we don't have Isak, and Isak will sit on our bench for the rest of the season.
Isn't Jared Bowen similar to Gordon though? Like he plays up front because the West Ham don't really have anyone else. But is he an out-and-out striker?
He's more of a wide player. Truly, I think that's where he played for Hull City the whole time. Was out wide.
Did he?
I'm not watching a ton of West Ham these days, so yeah.
Neither West Ham.
Yeah.
30 minutes empty stadium.
Let's move on for the game review. So we can go to Brentford and Villa. We'll start with you, Glenn, because we obviously had number one, an incisive post-mortem last week about Brentford, but Keith Andrews seems to be pulling it together. And I only saw highlights, but it seemed to me that Kelleher was doing Kelleher type things, the kind of things that we saw him do for Liverpool in that game. So what was your feeling about that? Did you feel confident afterwards about the game? Did you look at it and go, okay, maybe Keith Andrews might have some solutions to some things? Or do you think it may have been a case that West Ham didn't, or West Ham, I'm sorry, Shane, I'm so sorry about that mistake, but that Aston Villa maybe weren't up to par on the day?
Well, they put in a West Ham performance, didn't they, really? I mean, yeah, it's hard work if you're a Villa fan. For me, it was a really strong 90 minutes to Brentford, and we backed it up in the Carabao Cup today away at Bournemouth. Was another really strong performance with a 2-0 win. So we've got back-to-back clean sheets in all competitions, which took us like 30-odd games last season. So that's super impressive after just 3 games in charge. As I said, I said it last week, Macro, I felt quite validated. I think Nottingham Forest was a rude awakening for us, but they were a quality side and they're really good. And it was a bad timing for us, right? Even our first 11 wasn't like our strongest 11. And we must have made like 3 or 4 changes. Henderson coming in, Sharda starting, Dango, the goal scorer, coming straight into the team. So yeah, the changes he made were correct, but the stats stand out really. I mean, it's for me, from a Brentford fan, like I'm just buzzing about the win, buzzing about today, but I'm really interested to hear what Shay's got to say about the game, because Villa bossed possession, 76% possession away from home, right? They controlled the ball for 90 minutes. Absolutely, no problem. 17 shots, which is their most without scoring in a Prem game since October 2022. And they only had, and here's the main stat that stands out, 2 on target. So despite Kelleher playing pretty well and looking very solid, he wasn't a very busy man. He was watching them get blocked or fly around. And I'll say the big flashpoint was Coyote sliding in and blocking the Morgan Rogers shot, which was probably going in. And that was a real moment of quality for Villa. But from a Brentford fan, amazing, night and day compared to our start to the season. I was surprised we won because I would have taken, I don't want to say I would have taken a draw, but a draw I wouldn't have been displeased with, because I know Villa are a very strong side and I really respect them as an opponent. But from a Villa perspective, I mean, it's been a pretty sorry start to the season. You guys can't score goals, you don't look fluid, and you look a bit of a shadow of yourself. Like the excitement that we saw last season. I mean, Watkins looks isolated. You guys have no width. You're begging out for a winger. And yeah, you just looked a bit tired. It was a very un-Emery-like performance. And that really surprised me, because I honestly thought you guys would come through and probably turn us over, because I really believe in the quality of your squad. Wasn't to say I thought Brentford would put in a bad performance, but, we were as good as you were kind of lackluster. And that meant we got a very, very solid win.
Yeah.
Shay, what's your recollection of the game? Is Glenn, as he quite often is he on the money there with that assessment?
Oh, for sure. Like when you look at the lineup, 5 midfielders starting that have, like we said right before the show started, that have played, thousands of minutes as the same team. I mean, it wasn't the most assuring team. I was like, yes, we have quality in the midfield, but how Glenn said, there was no pace. Like Morgan Rogers truly isn't a wide player. He needs to play the 10 role that Yuri's playing. But Emery is just, I think what at the point, and somebody made a good point I was talking to, like maybe he's kind of doing it to the board and saying like, hey, I'm playing the best players that we have available. They're not the right positional players because I mean McGinn on wide is probably not his best spot. He doesn't have any pace at all, but you have to play him because he's instrumental to the team. But then we bring in Daniel Malin last year, and then you bring in Gusan, who both have pace. I know it's Gusan's first game, but try something different. Play with some pace, because like how Glenn said, Ollie is just sitting there. He can't do anything. Kind of like how Jamie was saying about West Ham. Like, there's nobody to run onto these balls. You're not going to see McGinn make a 60-yard dash and beat all the players. Like, he doesn't have any pace, truly. And it is frustrating because this is the team that's going to probably be the starting lineup for most of our matches. And it just shows like we'll dominate possession because we have 5 midfielders playing. Like they're going to hold the ball and there's nobody to run onto it. Hopefully this week against Crystal Palace, I don't know, they got our number. It's not going to be looking the best because, again, I could almost tell you what the lineup will be. It'll be McGinn and Kamara's spot, and then Yuri will be in the same spot again. And he'll probably put on Emi Buendia, who's no pace at all. It's just a little bit of flair. So that is what we've been begging for. And we sold probably 2 of the players that had pace, but Leon Bailey is hurt again. So I just saw Roma said he's going to be out for 3 months. So, like, we kind of dodged a bullet with him. But there's nobody. Like, I think all 4 or 5 of us combined probably have the same top speed as most of these players on the club right now. This is bad.
Do you think it's a smart game to play if you're right that Emery is playing the teams he's playing to show the board that he needs reinforcements in, even if you have to, get them on loan or something like that for the financial aspects of it? Because I know there's rumors for anybody who's a Celtic fan that Brendan Rodgers is kind of playing the teams he's playing to show the board that they should be splashing out from all of that money they've gotten for the times he's brought them into the Champions League that they never seem to spend. But I would expect that of Brendan Rodgers. He seems to be that kind of, I can play the political games and they'll work for me. They don't, Brendan. You get fired every time. But does the Emery seem like the kind of manager who would do that? Because he always seems like he's very much on the level, and he's probably trying to play the best team he can play.
I think it's just this is just the best players that we have. So you always want to play the best team that you have on paper. It's just the pace is not something that I guess over his career, most of his teams really aren't like rapid. I think Arsenal was probably the only few because Arsene Wenger was always going to have 2 wide players that were always electric. I don't think he really had that many fast players at Villarreal. So he's trying to mimic the same style, but I would say that Brentford game was asking for it. Like, he should have put Mullen on and Gusan on a little bit earlier. Because like Glenn said, we had 76% possession. So we obviously had the ball, but they didn't know what to do with it. You're looking for Ollie, kind of like I would just said with Holland. He's isolated. They know what he's going to do because, like, we haven't not played Ollie for like 4 years. I think everybody knows what Ollie Watkins is going to do. Like, he plays the exact same. There are thousands of hours of tape on him. So every team knows what to do when they're going to play Villa when there's no outlet. And then I'll also say, like, even Rodgers, truly, like, he was really well. He won, player of the young player of the season last year, but he has been awful the last couple of matches because he doesn't know what to do. Like, I think he's truly better at behind the striker, but having him out wide, he's kind of same thing. He's just stuck there.
Shay's feet got injured. He must be playing for Ange Postecoglou.
Shay's internet is about as fast as Villa's starting now.
I told you it's going to go out here in a little bit.
Okay, folks, that's the line of the night. Good night, everybody. Well done, Jamie. Here's what I want to just before we get on to Sully, because what's going to happen is Sully, the Thursday night pod is going to talk about the Liverpool side, so we just want to talk about the Newcastle side. But let's all laugh at United. Grateful that they got a 1-1. But my question to you boys, and anybody can pitch in here, Bruno Fernandes on that penalty, was he right to be upset that you accidentally stepped into the ref, or is he just a whiny little 5-year-old who shouldn't be captaining a 5-year-old's team?
5-year-old. He's a grown ass man. You telling me how do you get that thrown off when all you do is win penalties and take penalties? That's his entire game. So I think he's past it.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty for the captain of the team as well to be like put off by that of all things. I thought that was a bit pathetic.
And he skied it too. I think that's the worst part. He was 100% on him. He skied that thing. That was a good.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That is very true. Now, Sully, I've only seen highlights of the Liverpool game.
Same.
And the goals, of course. Well, actually, that's not true. I literally walked in and saw the goal, the winning goal. It was to the neutral, to the Liverpool and the Newcastle fans. We only think this, I think, about 10 years after the events. But to the neutral, and from every review, it was game of the season so far in the Premier League, and a very typical Liverpool-Newcastle game of high drama and last-minute goals. But having gone 1 man down to 10 men at half time, going and playing 45 plus minutes. What impressed me from the highlights, and I was depressed by Liverpool's defending, but Newcastle didn't give up, just didn't give up. And it felt to me like Liverpool had 10 men and Newcastle had 12, the way the territory was being conceded, which is, a topic of conversation for the Liverpool lads, because it was disgraceful, as far as I'm concerned, bit of tactical management from Arne Slot. And the first time I've probably had a proper criticism of him. But if you're a Newcastle fan, despite the loss, despite the controversies around the game, are you happy that those players believe enough in the Eddie Howe vision and the guy that stands beside him, that they didn't think the game was lost because they went 2-0 down? Because I would have been happy if it was in your shoes. I'd be so happy that the team did not give up.
I am beyond happy that the team did not give up. This was gritty, up north, Tyneside, Greg's in the morning, Newcastle football. What sucked about it is it went from a Pyrrhic victory to a Pyrrhic loss really quickly. I mean, losing Gordon for the next 3 games. Joe Linton's going to be out a month. We're going to be missing Tonali for probably 2 games. Schär probably has a concussion. They're not going to let him play on Sunday against Leeds. And then to lose in that fashion, just criminal. It was one of our gutsiest performances. I'm so sick of every year Newcastle Liverpool being on a Monday. Like it's always on a Monday.
Yeah.
Like it's the same, and it's the same every year. I know this Monday is coming and that we're just going to get screwed out of a game by the officials, who might as well dress in red. That's the color they were representing on Monday. But I mean, yes, it was incredibly impressive. Pope should have done better on that last goal. It was still a real nice goal, but he froze up. He was a statue in there. What more can you say? They left it all out there, but at the end of the day, for what purpose? For what? I hope Isak feels like shit after watching that game and watching every single one of the guys he went to war with the past few seasons go out there and give it their all. And if he's on that field, Gordon doesn't have to make that tackle. We play with 11 men. We win that game. It's just beyond frustrating. I will say, though, this is going to show, hey, transfers, you're up. All right. Your name is getting called now because of all these injuries. Let's see what we can do. Looking at Jimbo, the ref got the sending off correct, though. Yes, and that's again that sucks, because that tackle Gordon made, I don't know if anybody saw his Instagram post. His Instagram post was fantastic in the way he described it. He apologized. He said he was just trying to get some energy into the game. And if you watch it, his feet kind of get stuck in the turf as he slides. It's real awkward. And yes, I know we've all seen Van Dyke's calf. I think that's a blade job, going back to another WWE reference. So I think Van Dyke bladed his own calf. I don't think that was a real cleat mark. But it was everything you want if you're the neutral. And unfortunately, I'm not a neutral. I support the team that gets screwed every year.
The WWE references are coming thick and fast, so you would probably explain why you're dressed as Dude Love tonight.
But all my Newcastle stuff was in the wash, so I'm supporting my second team, Lithuania Olympic Basketball, and the Grateful Dead.
But now, nevertheless, do you think we said on this show last year that the Newcastle midfield is probably, certainly last season, the hardest working midfield in the Premier League? But that comes at a price. And do you think the Newcastle midfield is about to pay the price now?
I'm wondering if this. I kind of agree with you. I wonder if this level of play, this level of physicality, is starting to take its toll. Particularly Joe Linton has had some major injury spells the last couple of seasons. He's going to avoid surgery, which is a real positive. But yeah, like we got the reinforcements in Shea. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about the second Jacob. But it's next man up. We're gonna see what happens. But yeah, Tonali had a whole season off, so his body is fresh. He is ready to go. That man was basically in a cryo chamber for all of 2023. But we'll see what happens. Bruno still looks ever the part. Incredible captainship. I would have loved to have heard what he said in the dressing room at halftime, but yeah, that was just tough. That was tough.
No, I just want to say, Susie, even though we're good buddies from the Thursday night show, we will not be insulting our guests with this kind of nonsense. There's nobody on this panel as bad as Arteta by any stretch whatsoever. So let's move on then.
Bring Lee Maggs back. Bring him back.
Bring him back. Let's look at tonight. There were some Carabao Cup games. These are, I think, the only two all Premier League affairs, with Wolves against West Ham and AFC Bournemouth 2-0 on Brentford. Shay and Jay, the Shay and Jay show. We've talked about West Ham there, but we also, I think, maybe all of us had thought Wolves would be in trouble this year. But is it one of those things where they may actually become okay as the season wears on, and West Ham are West Ham genuinely that bad right now? What do we think?
Jamie,
I think West Ham's goalkeeper, who they paid 20 million for, is genuinely that bad. He makes Robert Sanchez look like Donnarumma. That said, I think West Ham are that bad. They're not playing for Potter, and I think getting a win on the board for Wolves is good. But West Ham are playing like a championship team. So while it was a matchup of two Premier League titans, let's say, I don't think West Ham can quite meet that level, and it's, I think, predictable is the outcome based on how West Ham played. They were either going to rebound after getting thrashed by Chelsea, or and show up, or kind of continue with more of the same. And it seems like they're continuing more of the same, and almost forcing a decision for Potter. But a great win for Wolves nonetheless. I think that may be the trigger that they need to kickstart their season. I still think they're going to struggle, but a win in the Carabao Cup early on is certainly helpful, especially against Premier League opposition. That's potentially a tough game that they've got in their review now.
Shay, I'm sure you never want to see Wolverhampton Wanderers get any sort of success whatsoever. But is a cup run, let's say, even like a boost of winning the first game you play in the cup, is it an Emperor's New Clothes thing, or do you think Wolves are still going to be in trouble? Can you be objective enough to say the Wolves are going to be in trouble or not in trouble? Was that game, do you think, two of the bottom three gone down at the end of the season?
Definitely 2-3 of the bottom going down, but like how Jamie said, it was against Premier League opposition. It's not like West Ham played much different of a team than they would probably start in a league game. But I mean, currently, I think Wolves and Villa are the only two teams that haven't scored a goal yet in 2 matches. So for them, that's going to be huge because their striker is on the board for the season. So, they may have found some kind of chemistry for that. But like how we said, just West Ham are just that bad. I just don't know if Potter has it in him to maybe get something out of them. But like how we said, Jared Bowen's the only one with the pace. He scored. And then how you and I talked about right at the very beginning, like he was going at it at the fans. So now you have the fans turning on the players 2 games in, 3 games into the season early. Yes, we got knocked out of the cup, but what's going to happen when they play their next match at home and then they lose bad? Like if they have another 3-0 loss, like the fans are going to become rabid. Granted, they're far away, so the players are a little bit safer because they're all the way out in the stratosphere over here. But
not even in the ground.
Yeah, they're not even in the ground, so they'll get a little bit of leeway. I just have a feeling that they're not going to be able to bounce back like this. 2 games, and how I think somebody said earlier, like he may have already lost the locker room, and then at that point, how we said, do you give him 1 more match, 2 more matches, or do you go ahead and fire him before the weekend? Bring in a caretaker just to say, hey, let's get something out of there. And that starts a spark. But then how you were saying too, I don't know who they bring in. Celtic, Brendan Rodgers, and then you're kind of in that same Brendan Rodgers cycle again of he may
Big Ange.
Or maybe bring in Big Ange. He's like, hey, I'll win a trophy for you, but we'll finish 17th. So
the press conferences at least will be entertaining again. We'll get that much at least. Jamie's doing a bit of a fluid interpositional switching there, but we've put him back at right back where he belongs. Glenn, now 2-0 against Bournemouth, and Bournemouth, a rising team. I didn't see the team, so I don't know whether both Bournemouth and Brentford put out slightly weakened teams with the weekend games in mind. But nevertheless, another clean sheet and 2 goals on the board. It must be pleasing as a Brentford fan.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I was being double marked by Jamie there. He's really squeezing me out of space. Yeah, it's great. I mean, I watched bits of it, like maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's a tricky time, isn't it? Really kind of afternoon on a Tuesday. But yeah, really good. And what really mattered, Macca, was for me was the goal scorers, Carvalho and Thiago. I mean, you want your, perennially out of form kind of creative talent who costs a lot of money to get a goal. And you want your record signing, who's a centre forward, to get a goal. He'd already scored against the consolation against Forest, of course. But for Thiago to come off the bench and get a goal was brilliant. And it was both sides rotated pretty heavily. 4 of our back 5 were totally different from the weekend. But honestly, Macca, I think this really showed, surprisingly, because we've lost so many key players. I think because so many players have come back from injury, like Aaron Hickey, Rico Henry, various other players who've been in and out of the team with injury, like Ethan Pinnock. It was actually really satisfying to see a team that was quite changed, that actually still looked really competent. Like, as a Premier League versus Premier League clash, as the reason you pulled it up. And yeah, I will say the caveat is, Bournemouth rotated pretty heavily, but again, so did we, and they brought on Ivan Nilsson, when we brought on Thiago pretty much. So they brought on Semenyo for the second half. So, they wanted to win it, and we scored 2 goals. We get a clean sheet away from home, and we've gone from being 3-0 down in the first 45 minutes of the season to winning our next 2 games 3-0 on aggregate, right, against 2 really good sides. Certainly Villa being a full-strength team. So, yeah, delighted. And, I mean, what a turnaround, what a difference a week makes, right, Macca? Because, everyone's, we've been written off a bit by pundits losing our key players. We've been favourites for relegation, along with I would say we were the most cited team for relegation beyond the 3 that went up. So, for us to take that on the chin, lose heavily and be completely outplayed in the first game of the season, and then to turn it around, that is really, really satisfying. So yeah, I mean, I can't tell you the difference of emotion we've got as a Brentford fan from last Saturday to this Tuesday. I mean, it's Saturday before last. That's what football's about, right?
Yeah.
And whereas Shea, it's like the opposite, right? You start the season, you're expecting Villa to do good things, and you're stuck in the mud, and you're feeling really bad. Or Sully, think about the change of emotion in 45 minutes for you guys. Like, that's why we love this sport. It's because you get these complete contrasts in emotions. And when it's great, you feel brilliant. But obviously, like Sully and Shea and me, first game of the season, when it's bad, it weighs heavy on you. So, hey, I'm happy right now. But, hey, if Sunderland turn us over by a few at the weekend, I'll be singing a different song on a Tuesday next week.
It's just like marriage, except without the soul-crushing inevitability of death. One more thing, though, Glenn. I just looked it up there. It seemed like Keith Andrews went to a back three for that game tonight. Does that strike a note with you? Was that an actual thing, or is that just live score getting its formations wrong yet again?
Yeah, no, back five, absolutely. We had three centre backs. Van den Berg was the only one that kept his place on the weekend, so he was the kind of anchor, with Pinnock and Aya either side of him, and Hickey and Rico Henry, who, in theory, Macca, I mean, a lot of fans would say at their best, they're arguably our best right and left back at the club. It just so happened Keane Lewis Potter and Coyote, who's come in, have both been superstars for us last season and the start of this season. So I think that back line, actually, Macca, really showed our depth. And yeah, I'll be more than happy if we employ 5-3-2 at various points. It's kind of 5-3-1-1 with Carvalho finally getting that free floating role, which he can't have with Damsgaard in the team, right?
Yeah.
And he's a luxury player. I'm yet to see any evidence that he isn't a luxury player. But for him to get a really clinical goal, delighted for him. It meant a lot. He had the biggest smile on his face. It was like he was playing, a kind of weekend Sunday game that we'd play. He scored the goal. They've kicked off and they've restarted the game, and he's still smiling. And I love that. That's the kind of enjoyment you want to see your players have on the field. Whereas, other players we've watched this weekend, West Ham or whoever else, they just look utterly miserable. And that's not the kind of energy you want at your club.
Glenn, you're like the Somerset Maughan of football reviews. Now, with that said, let's look at the rest of this week. Will basically be a lot of news headlines, a lot of nail biting for some, a lot of resignation to their fates for others. The transfer deadline day, which I believe is Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and then whatever time zone that is for everybody else, wherever they are. Sully, obviously, there's a big transfer news story regarding Isak. Do you think that Isak leaves to Liverpool and the money that comes in ensures that Newcastle can buy, number one, a replacement, and then maybe thinking, holy crap, we're going to need another central midfield possibly for the rest of the season?
I think I don't think he goes. I think we keep him. I think we say, you know what? Screw you, Liverpool, you cheap asses. Pay us what he's worth. That's how we're going to handle this. And if you don't, well, then we've got a lot of pine at St. James's Park where he can pull up. We've got a nice special off-campus training ground where he can train by himself and fuck off over there. I don't think we're doing anything else. I think we're done. I think getting Strand was kind of our last-ditch effort. It really doesn't sound like we're going to get Vissa. So we'll see. I'm hearing rumors that Vinny Jr. wants out of Madrid, so maybe we'll splash for him, but we're not doing shit. We're not going to do anything. It is what it is. We're going to have to just still wait, what is it now, 10 days, 9 days to the end of this thing, and then we'll continue our season.
Have Newcastle been linked with, we were talking about Ollie Watkins earlier. Surely that could be an option. And I hear Jackson being thrown around as well. Seems like you might be able to pick up Watkins for cheaper. Is that not an option for Newcastle?
I wouldn't do that to my friend Shay. I called up Tyndall this afternoon and said, "Don't do it. Don't do it. Shay's my boy. We got to leave him one good player on that roster. The only one with pace."
It'd be different if we started Duran, but there's a striker on the team.
No, let me ask you this, Sully, before we go to the other boys, though. As a fan, as good as the idea of leaving Isak on the bench for the season, it satisfies that sense of, what the hell are you doing, you moron? You've got it made at Newcastle. The reality of it is that you may never get offered 130, 140, or 110 million for Isak again. Is it better to have the board in the hand rather than the two in the bush? Or is it a case of a rolling stone gathers no moss, or other metaphors that I'm trying to figure out now because they don't match whatsoever? Would the smart move really objectively and emotionlessly to take the money and then replenish the squad that is going to start hurting possibly with the amount of work that needs to get done to play the Eddie Howe way?
I mean, probably, but I would like us to stay petty, dig our heels in, take our ball and go home. I think that's what we're going to do. I don't know, like it'd be nice to get that kind of money, but again, we're so close to the end of this transfer window. I don't think we could put together enough of a plan in this time to make it worth it. Even if we got, let's say Liverpool dusts off the cobwebs in their wallet and goes up to like 115 or something. I don't think we would have the ability to spend it effectively without overpaying for a subpar or for an inferior player. So I would rather keep him on the bench, see what happens. We're not going to be worse than West Ham this season. We're not going to be worse probably than Burnley. Sunderland is going to be interesting, but we shouldn't be in a relegation battle. I mean, I don't get why this always happens when we're headed to Champions League. It seems like we fall on the harshest of times right as we get to Champions League. So we'll see what happens, but I don't think there's going to be any changes. I think we stand firm, no matter how dumb it is. I think we play with our hearts, and that's what Newcastle's about. It's a city with a heartbeat, something Liverpool wouldn't know anything about.
Well, I would say.
Do you think though it's what you should do is just hire Brad Pitt for Moneyball to do 3 deals at once?
Yes, yeah, and then maybe we can hire Brad Pitt from Snatch to win us some fights, and now we're just rolling in the cash. Maybe Brad Pitt from F1 can play striker for us. Also, we'll see what happens.
The good thing about Brad Pitt from Snatch is he could do the Newcastle accent; nobody would understand him either. And that one, so it'd work out. So Jamie, Chelsea, do you think it's going to be more outs than ins before the end of the transfer window?
Seems like we are finally clearing that up. Chukwuemeka just announced a permanent move to Borussia Dortmund. I actually think he was a good player, and we did nothing with him. I would have loved to see him incorporated more in the team, but I think we recouped our spend for him, and hopefully he does really well at Dortmund. We're still in the market for Xavi Simons and Garnacho. I'm not sure we really need either, to be honest. But if we get one,
would you want Garnacho though?
No. Yeah. I think we want to buy Garnacho as a distressed asset and move him. United tried to include Andre Santos in the deal, and I think that was shut down firmly from Chelsea. I wouldn't be surprised if we moved on one of them, but I think the priority at the moment is moving on Jackson, seeing if we can't recoup 60 odd million for him. And it sounds like Villa and a couple other teams are interested, maybe reuniting with Emery, but we'll see. I think seems like Donnarumma is going to go to City. I mean, I'd hate to say Chelsea need a goalkeeper, but Sanchez, if we're going to be seriously up there, Sanchez probably is not going to do it for us. But from what I've heard, we're not going to be investing too heavily in goalkeepers.
I just want to point out I'm available and I take up 3/4 of the goal. I'm just putting that out there if you have any contacts at Chelsea.
Aka, we need you for your pace, your stamina.
Yeah, just throw the pizza at the other end of the field. Nobody's beating me towards it. Or just stick it on a stick and a string. Like, run, Forrest, run. Shay, what do you think? Is your financial situation going to hamstring any sort of movements whatsoever?
Yeah, like I think the only one I've seen so far is they'll probably announce Asensio at the last minute. So, they should have done this probably 2 weeks ago, so we could have at least played him and got him back up to speed and have that creative spark that we need. But I think that's just going to be the only one. Hopefully, it's a loan to buy because he's literally on a free at the end of the season. So if we spend any money on him, then we deserve every fate that we have of just spending stupid amounts of money. The Jackson one, like Jamie said, there's no way we can outright purchase him because that would throw all sorts of red flags. So if there was just a way to potentially do a loan, I think that's the only business that we can possibly do, unless they're just saying behind the doors and haven't told us anything, which they've always been very quiet when it comes to transfers because I didn't think Asensio or Rashford were coming last season. But I don't see one player coming in.
I was surprised by the Jackson Villa link as well. Was thinking that would have to be like a Jackson plus for Rodgers, really, right?
I think that's what they were trying to do, but obviously we're not going to sell him right now for that, just because one player that we have that can create. And then I saw the Nkunku one too, which would be fine with pace, but I don't know how long he would be able to stay healthy the whole time because that's been his biggest issue. And I don't know how much he sold Chukwuemeka for Carney for, but y'all paid $20 million for us. So thank you. Maybe you made your money back.
Yeah.
Glenn, any movements for Brentford, or is your hope really that you don't lose any more?
Yeah, nothing concrete. Being linked with Maximilian Bier, the Dortmund forward, a little bit today, which would potentially be as a Wissa replacement. But as Sully mentioned, it feels like that's gone a little bit cold, and potentially for both Sully and I and our teams, it's going to be rather excruciating kind of, phase for us as we try and reintegrate some one-to-way players into our side, potentially. Like, who knows? I do feel like it's going to be a big weekend, and when one domino falls, the rest will. Who knows which way that's going to go? I feel like the Isak move is kind of at the heart of this web of transfers that affects my club and many others. But we'll just see. But honestly, Sully, isn't it crazy to see Strand Larsen, a player who's been linked with you guys, linked formal offer put in, instead of stropping around, going on strike, deleting social media posts, whatever else both our players have done, he gets up, smashes in 2 goals, and gets his team a win. I mean, that difference in approach. And look at the Palace guys. I mean, Eze was playing for Villa until he was basically walked out onto the Emirates pitch. He would have played the first half and been announced at halftime if he could have. These are Gahey, same thing with Gahey for them, right? These are players that, regardless of anything else, any other context, just show a real commitment to their sides, whether that's Wolves or Villa or whoever else, or Palace in this case. It is frustrating that both our clubs seem to be at the center of a really, frustrating moment. And yeah, obviously as it was at Palace, but yeah, these clubs, our clubs have just kind of suffered because you can't really move on or start the season unless you know who's going to be there when players are making it so difficult. And Sully, as you said, Isak was missing for you guys, and that kind of was part of a series of events that meant you ended up playing with 10 because Gordon was trying to make that difference. And thankfully for us, we've managed to get 2 wins on the bounce without Wissa, but we would have been better with him. We might have given Forest a proper game instead of being really kind of pretty pitiful the first weekend. So nothing concrete, Macca. I feel like we're all on the edge of our seats, probably all of us who just support Premier League teams or care about the league, waiting for one major move to kind of concretize, and then other stuff's going to go. But kind of like a bit of a cold war right now. I mean, everything, especially with Newcastle at the heart of it, everything's kind of softened, and we're not really sure where we stand with Wissa because I don't know if you guys are putting in a big money offer for Strand Larsen. That doesn't suggest to me that you're going to come by Wissa the next day, obviously.
I'm always on the edge of my seat, but that's mostly because my ass is fat. If anybody's wondering. So it's going to be a dramatic weekend, I think. And I think you're right. When one domino falls, they'll all fall. But it's going to be controversial one way or the other. And it's going to be, I think it's already the most amount spent in the Premier League in a transfer window, isn't it? Something stupid like that. Maybe this will be the window the bubble bursts in.
That would be a great alternate kit for us to wear against Leeds this weekend. Black and white stripes, but dominoes. And as soon as somebody drops, we'd be good to go.
Instead of black and white stripes, you could wear white and black stripes.
Yep.
Exactly. Hey, you're onto something.
Zebra black and white. Well, what pity, Sully, though, is if I know you don't want to play Isak, but you play him in the Champions League, and then he's cup tied. And if he goes to Liverpool, you can't play him.
I don't know if we're even getting.
Whatever
Yeah, I
happens,
mean
but
that would be amazing. That would be the
one way to
ultimate
do it.
move. Yeah, and
That would reduce
yeah,
his value.
Yeah, it would definitely.
Big time.
But
What I was going to say, well, I mean, to be fair, Ekitike is doing a fantastic job so far as well. So I think Liverpool fans are tiny bit ambivalent. We need a centre back more than we need a Isak, really.
and see that's the worst part. Is it's like at this point you guys don't even want or need him, and he just wants to go to you and not be at Newcastle. That is the most like frustrating part of this. Is just how privileged the Liverpool fans are right now, and just throwing a grenade into St. James's Park and then walking away like the Joker in The Dark Knight. Like, this week sucks.
Now, it may well do, but let's look at what next week brings, or at least the weekend. We're going to look at your team and who they're playing, what you think of the game, and then also after that, we'll go for our Tonali picks. Obviously, the big game is Liverpool-Arsenal. From my point of view, at least. But that's I think it's a Sunday game. Yeah, perfect. I get to watch it. We'll talk about that on Thursday pod. But Jamie, Chelsea, Fulham. If it was at Craven Cottage, I would be thinking that's a tricky one. But at Chelsea, it should be not routine, but you shouldn't be coming away with a loss, really, should you?
No, I mean, if United can get something, then surely we can. They're a decently coached outfit, so Fulham are no slouches. I think we're favourites, and we should pick up 3 points. But it's not going to be walk in the park, like you say. No Cole Palmer, so I'd like to see Esteval start again and see if he kind of progresses with the Yao Pedro in that kind of number 10 role. I like the way we play going forward. And if we just roll out the same team, maybe Reece James plays right back, but it's a very similar team. I think we will walk away with 3 points, and would love to see Esteval score.
Do you think Fulham are tricky? They've become a tricky proposition in recent years. Do you think your goalkeeper weakness may be where any drama might happen for you?
Potentially. I mean, we look more solid at the back with Tosin in there instead of Achimpong. Sanchez can be really, really solid at shot stopping. Where his weakness comes in is his distribution's kind of not there. He makes a mistake and he carries it with him for the whole game. So I'm hoping last week was a blip because he was really good in the Club World Cup. But yeah, I mean, with Robert Sanchez, the next mistake is just around the corner. I think we've learned that and we've lived with it for too long to ignore that fact. So it's definitely a possibility. And based on how we lined up, like he is the most vulnerable spot in the team for sure.
Glenn, let's look at you guys have Sunderland away. I'm sure Sully will be a Brentford fan as well this weekend, as well as a Newcastle fan. But are you encouraged by the last two results now that you think you could go to Sunderland and get something? Because I think you're right. I think the loss of Frank and the loss of key players has pushed, including me, a lot of neutral observers to put Brentford in that relegation scrap. But this is a 6-pointer already, isn't it? I mean, if you get something out of this, it puts some distance between you and Sunderland at least.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a good game. I think they'll be really hard. I think going to the Stadium of Light is going to be a challenge for everyone this season. Obviously, as Burnley found to their peril, I think it was whoever got beaten.
The Stadium of Shite. You mispronounced that.
We'll see. I mean, on paper, we've got enough quality to get a positive result. I'll take a draw. I think a draw away from home in the Premier League is always a good result. I don't really care who the opposition is. I'll happily take a point.
And that's Old Trafford.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is the really weak teams, of course. Yeah. West Ham or Man United. But I think it will be a good game. I don't know how high the quality will be, but I think the atmosphere will be up there. And I think it will be pretty even. I mean, they'll have the home fans behind them. Obviously, they can score goals. They brought in a lot of players, of course, but some quality in there. I think they've tried to buy strategically. But yeah, let's bring it on. What a great time, Maka, for us to go to a challenging, away setting after 2 wins in 3 or 4 days. So yeah, bring it on. If we could keep a clean sheet, that'd be incredible. But A draw, a point away from home, happy days. If we can nick a win, even better. But yeah, I'd like to avoid a loss because that can keep the momentum rolling, right? Win, draw a lot, draw or win. That would be great. That means the season already, some of the doubters might be silenced for just a little bit because that will show that we really mean business this season.
Lone Star Londoner says that Liverpool will be. So I have to say, as Liverpool fans, seeing the defensive weaknesses we've had over the last 2 games, it wouldn't shock me. I'm not confident of win there at all. But we're not talking about Liverpool today. We're talking about Aston Villa, who are playing at home to Crystal Palace. A tricky proposition. They are very well coached, I think, under the guy whose name I can't remember. What's his name? Glasner, yeah. Very well coached, very well earned FA Cup win. Is this the kind of opponent, Shay, that you don't want to face at this point with all the sort of drama going on with Aston Villa in terms of transfers and stuff?
Yeah, like I said, if we do anything like we did last week against Brentford, then we're going to struggle because I know Palace just sold their pacey players, but they still have Mateta, who has been an absolute monster over the season. And they have our number. I don't think we've beaten them in like the last 2 years. So this is a game I don't really have much confidence in us coming out with 3 points. Like Glenn said, I'll take a point and I'll be more than happy. The only thing I hope to see is maybe Emery finally will just play a different team and it's not the same starting 11 I've seen the last 6 games. So I will gladly take a point.
Sully, let's see what you guys have. Leeds away. I have to say, Leeds Arsenal was that was a proper classic, original Premier League era game. But this is not original Premier League era Leeds. If you can get the players that look like they may have been injured in the Liverpool game back, if it's not a serious, apart from the concussion, I think the concussion's not going to be messed with. But would you be confident about going to Leeds and getting a win here?
I think yes. I think we could pull out like a 2-1 win. We're not going to have Joe Linton or Tonali. That's just not going to happen. So we'll see what our in transfers can do. It's just adding on to the emotion. We're going to see Sean Longstaff this weekend. Not quite a homecoming for him, but if this Leeds form continues, I think it's going to be tough to keep him off the Newcastle bus as they head back up north.
And I think I got Chelsea, I got Brentford's one. Yep, Sunderland, I got Shay, I got everybody. So have a look at those games there, boys. We'll go Shay, Sully, Jamie, and Glenn in that order. Your Tonali pick. There he is for anybody who forgot.
Did anyone pick Spurs last week?
I think
I don't know.
I thought I might have.
I did, and you all owe me money.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do it. Burnley's gonna get the win. United are in shambles, and Burnley will get their Hollywood start.
That's a good Tonali pick. Sully, what do you reckon?
There's not a lot out there. I'm gonna go Fulham Chelsea.
Jamie.
I think Fulham gets a win. I'm going to say 1-0 on a Sanchez mistake.
Jamie, that's a glove slap laid down there. That's a glove slap in a Homer Simpson style. What's your Tonali pick? Is it Leeds against Newcastle now?
I was going to say Leeds Newcastle, but based on how many people you have out the squad, I'd say that's quite an even game. I'm actually going to go for. I think Wolves might get a result at Everton. Or at Wolves, but against Everton. I mean, rebounding off the Carabao Cup. Everton high and mighty after their 2-0 victory last weekend.
Everton are doing quite well. That's a good pick, Glenn. What do you reckon? Is there another surprise out there?
I think there is. I think the surprise, which would contradict everything we've said for the last hour and 10 minutes, it's been such a topsy-turvy season already, just there's been kind of chaotic moments and surprises. Wouldn't it be funny, and I'm thinking here about what's going on behind the scenes at Nottingham Forest, wouldn't it be funny if Graham Potter got his troops in order and they snuck a 1-0 win? I really like that for a shock.
That's a good Tonali pick. And also, probably bad for Nuno, but he sounds like he wants out anyway already at this point.
That tifo this weekend at Forest was
Hilarious.
incredible. Hang that in the Louvre. That was unbelievable.
I didn't see. I gotta go look for that now once we get off air.
Oh, Maka, you are in for a treat.
So with that said, those are your picks. Remember them, and we can laugh at everybody next week to see who got it right or wrong. But nevertheless, the great thing is we do have a weekend of Premier League football. If you're in the States, it's Labor Day weekend, so that's a nice 3-day weekend, including for Maka for once. I get to not have to go to work for a change. I feel like one of the lads down pit back in 1845, working for 2 shillings a day that I have to pay back the next day. But if you want more craziness, such as the American Scouser coffee show on Wednesday morning or the Thursday podcast, you got to do this. You got to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and the Blue Sky Mastodon X, formerly known as Twitter, and Uri Geller's Psychic Class 101. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure as always. We will see how all these scores go. Hopefully the transfer window goes down with not too much controversy and not too much fighting. Basically, I'm hoping
that's rich coming from you. That's rich coming from you.
I was going to say, basically, I'm hoping Sully doesn't find out where I live. And then for all of those kids and teachers going back to school, good luck with that. It's going to be obviously hot for the next 2 months because that's what happens when school starts. And if you're starting your high school or middle school soccer coaching seasons and your pre-seasons, good luck with those as well. They're always fun until the parents get involved. So peace out, everybody. Have a good evening. Here is the funky music, and we will see you again soon.
Goodbye.